All right, I have to do it. It might be windy. It's windy and cold again. It feels like every time I try to do this, it's like windy and cold. All right, but I had to do this. It's the draft. I mean, it's my favorite time of the year, the NFL draft. It's such an interesting event, and I mean, for me personally, I've been a draft geek since I can remember. I mean, I remember being in like middle school and high school and being late to class because I was talking to our hall monitors about the draft, and like I'll literally talk to anybody about the NFL draft. So prospects, that kind of a thing. I think part of the reason I really like it, and I think what brought me into it, is getting to see the player's story, right? So getting to see the players from like, seeing them in high school, seeing them like become high school all-stars, and then going to college, seeing what colleges they go to, and then they get to this point where it's like, oh man, you've been following them, and then that continues, like, frankly, until they retire and put on a gold jacket. Like Drew Brees, I remember seeing him at Purdue. It was like one of my favorite memories is watching Drew Brees in college, and then at that point I didn't realize, like, why are they taking it? Why is he getting picked in the second round? Like, I don't understand San Diego. But I mean, at that point you didn't realize, oh, okay, well, they have these measurables, and for some reason they don't think he's good enough, or what, it's crazy. But I mean, getting to see that process, and now, like, pretty soon, in a few years when he's eligible, he's gonna be a Hall of Famer. So seeing that, like, the sort of memorable moments that you get to see in these players' careers. Watching Adrian Peterson. Remember seeing him in the high school All-American game, and then seeing him, at Oklahoma as a freshman playing against Texas. I mean, the runs that he made, and seeing Reggie Bush as a freshman at USC. Like, so you get to see these players, and I think that's what I really enjoy, is like getting to follow them on their journey. So, and I'm a geek for all of the sort of little stupid nuances of the draft, the measurables, the 3-cone drills, the bench press reps, the vertical, the 40. Of course, everybody's like infatuated by the 40. So I think just the whole process, and it's an event, right? Like, it wasn't always this type of an event, and I loved it then. And like now it's become like a production, to where the draft is produced, the combine is produced, all of these pro days are produced, and now you get to even see like the players. Okay, well, where are they working out? They're working out at this academy or that academy, and it's like a big deal to see them through this process. And like now you have each of these players, like so many of them have like little sort of people following them around. They can document their own journey on YouTube, and you get all this behind the scenes stuff, which is I think just like incredible. So it's just added to the NFL being a 24/7 365 all year football league. And part of the reason the NFL is just so much able to dominate is like they don't have actual games right now, but for the last few weeks, they've dominated the headlines, even in the thick and middle of the NBA season, right? That's incredible. Like, it would never happen to the NFL during their season, but they'll take chunks of the spring and the summer, and it's a remarkable thing. And the draft itself, like as an event, in the last few years, I mean, for a number of years, I mean, it's been at Radio City Music Hall, and the fans come there, and it's like a party for them. Like, some of it's a little bit over the top. You got like the people dressed up like they're in the dog pound, or like Raider fan is there, like in like shoulder pads and face paint. And like, it's a little much for me, especially like, a kid gets drafted and like he's booed, he hasn't played it down. That's a little bit, it's, probably not my cup of tea, but it is what it is. But certainly everybody's like excited about it, and it's a big deal. And I think part of the reason, so for me, I'm just a geek for it. I'm just a nerd for it. There's like some sort of inner satisfaction that I get about, talking about the draft and thinking about prospects and being like, oh, his game translates to the NFL. His game doesn't translate to the NFL. I think it's just fascinating. I think for fans in general, I think there's a real hope. this is like a sort of reset. It's like the start of next season, and there's this like hope of like, we can do it. And like and the sucky teams are incentivized, right? I mean, the suckiest teams in the league, the Jaguars got the number 1 pick, right? So they know they're going to get the best player in this draft, Trevor Lawrence. So you're incentivized as a sucky fan. Even you're like, okay, we have some hope. They're giving us a little weight. We got, we're on a little bit of a weighted scale here. So of course, Jets fans, like, like whoever the Jets pick, like, I'm just convinced like their incompetence. Like, I don't know anything about Zach Wilson, the quarterback from BYU, but I'm just gonna guess that because the Jets picked him, it's not gonna work out. And there's nothing wrong with the kid. I think he's got great arm talent. He's got a ton of potential, but he's sort of like Sam Darnold with a little bit of better arm. And I don't know that the arm was a problem for Sam Darnold. I think it was the organization. So we're gonna see. Robert Saleh, everybody really likes him. He's supposed to be a really good coach. So we'll see. But I'm not holding. If you're a Jets fan, like, yeah, I'm sorry. Other than you, everybody else has a ton of hope. For the Jets, I just think like, the chances of every quarterback in this draft being successful is probably slim. So if there's going to be one that's not successful, I'm going to say it's the one who ended up in the worst sort of organization. That's the Jets. Anyways, neither here nor there. The production of it, the Radio City Music Hall, the red carpet, the draft is like such an amazing event. This year we got to say though, with COVID, things have been shitty for everybody, right? But the draft, I think there's an interesting element of like, we get to be in the players' homes, like with their family, with their team, with their parents, siblings, really close friends, significant others. Like, I think there's something really cool to get to see them celebrate with their sort of group. And I saw Najee Harris did a cool thing. He went back to some of the community housing that he lived in as a youngster, and I think he went back with his mom and his family, and they watched it from there. So I mean, that's got to be incredibly satisfying. I know Radio City Music Hall is cool, but like to be able to do that, I think that's pretty dope. So check out that story. That's a cool thing that he did. But yeah, getting to see them, in their element, with their family, with their support system, because it's not just a victory for them. This is a big moment, obviously, for them, but it's like all these other people have also sacrificed and helped them, to get where they are. So, I think the draft, like, I'm a nerd, so that's why I like it. But I think everybody's got some hope, after it, and that's always a nice thing. Every filmmaker, every director, every screenwriter, they have a vision for their film, right? They have a vision for their film, and that vision for the film is like the best possible version of the film. What that film can be at its complete apex, in its best form. That's how directors, filmmakers envision films, right? You don't ever think about your film and be like, well, if this was mediocre, this is what it would look like. No, it's aspirational. It's at its best. This is my vision for this thing, and I think this is really going to be incredible and move people, right? So that's what filmmakers want. And I think the same is true with head coaches and general managers. So like Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch. Kyle Shanahan, by the way, I think he's the best young coach in the league. I think he's better than McVay. I mean, sorry for saying that, McVay. I think McVay is great, but I think Kyle Shanahan is a really, really special coach who has really proven it in a lot of different ways with the quarterbacks that he's worked with. I think John Lynch is a good general manager. I think, obviously, look at their roster. I mean, that's a Super Bowl ready roster. They got depth. That defensive line is ridiculous. The offensive line is physical, nasty. The wide receivers are dynamic, interchangeable, so versatile. Run after catch, sweep, run with the ball, catch the ball. I mean, they're really, really, really good. And so, obviously, John Lynch has put together a good team. So, Kyle Shanahan, best young coach in the league. John Lynch, good general manager. Now, when they look at their team and their system, and let me talk specifically about Shanahan for a second. When he envisions his offense and how it's run, he's thinking at its best, my offense would look like this. If only I had the person that could do it. He's not thinking, well, if I had a mediocre competence person, this is what the offense would look like. He's thinking, at its best, my offense could be this dynamic. This is how dynamic my offense could be. In the same way, like a director, Martin Scorsese, for instance, when he's thinking about his film, like he's thinking, okay, I got this part. I need somebody to play it. You know, he's thinking Meryl Streep. Like, he's not thinking, like, let me find somebody who's, like, okay, can read the lines and just do what I ask of them and can't do any more, sort of limited, have a ceiling. Like, that's not what he's thinking. He's thinking, let me get Meryl Streep on this thing, and I see the film with her, or Leonardo DiCaprio. He's obviously worked with him a ton. But that's what he's thinking. He's thinking, like, at its best, this is what my film could be. And, like, honestly, once you envision that, you don't want to settle for anything less, right? Like, nor should you. If you have that opportunity to get that kind of a player and that kind of talent, that's what you want to get. So, I mean, Kyle Shanahan, and no disrespect to Mac Jones, like, no disrespect to Mac Jones, but like I just didn't believe the reports. And it's like, all these credible people were reporting it. And, you know, I'm sure their sources were, you know, legitimate and, you know, they had good reason for reporting these things. But it's like, just from mentality, you're just like, no, that can't be. Like, he can't be envisioning his offense with a quarterback who, you know, he's a good quarterback, but definitely limited, right, in Mac Jones. You know, especially for Kyle Shanahan, just take a look at his experience, right? Like, our experience guides us. So, like, Kyle Shanahan's a guy, they were in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they lost. They probably played an A-plus game for 3/4 of that game. And they got walked down by a team that had a more physically gifted, dynamic quarterback. And that's got to feel horrible, right? Like, they got walked down by a quarterback who has an elite skill set. And Mahomes played good for like a quarter and a half. Not even. He played good for like the fourth quarter. And he walked them down. And it was like fairly standard, you know? And same thing. I mean, the Atlanta Falcons against the New England Patriots. I mean, they played a perfect game for 3 out of 4 quarters. And then an elite quarterback, Brady obviously, walked them down. So, like, take a look at his experience. Like, that's got to be traumatizing, right? Like, don't you want to have the elite quarterback that puts pressure on the other teams, that, like, makes them have to play a perfect game? So I think, just the mentality, like, the reporting of it, you know, I don't doubt those sources, but, like, it just didn't make sense from a mentality standpoint and from a standpoint of, like, how somebody envisions their work, their film, their offense. So that was my thing. And it was like, you know, they moved up to the number 3 spot. They, like, gave up draft picks. So it's like, man, if I'm going to skip breakfast and lunch, like, I'm not going home and having dinner and eating oatmeal. Like, I'm not no offense to Mac Jones. Like, I like oatmeal personally. I'm a weirdo though. Like, I really like oatmeal, but it's like, you know, I'm going to get on an oatmeal tangent here for a second. Like, people make oatmeal all wrong. Like, people just put water in it. Like, no, you need to use milk. You need to, like, add berries. You need to add, like, nuts. You need to, you know, you got to do a lot of stuff to it. That's sort of like Mac Jones. Like, he needs, like, the support. He needs, like, the berries and, like, chia seeds and flax seeds and, like, all these other things. And then oatmeal's, like, pretty key. But, like, back to my point. Like, you're not gonna trade up, you know, skip breakfast and lunch and, like, go home and eat oatmeal. Like, that's just not what you're going to do. If you're going to skip breakfast and lunch, you're going to go to a restaurant that you're like, oh man, I haven't tried this, but I've heard 1,000 good things about it. And like, this might be amazing. This might be amazing. This has the potential to be a 5-star meal. Like, this is like, I've heard about the chef, like the staff is great. The vibe is good. Like, everything is lining up. We just haven't been there. That's what Trey Lance is, right? Everything is lining up. He's a dynamic athlete, good arm, mobile, and like, if you take a look, one of the points for people wanting to say that he's going to get Mac Jones was like, well, look at the quarterbacks he's worked with: Matt Schaub, Matt Ryan, Colt McCoy, like all these, like Kirk Cousins, right? Kirk Cousins. I'm forgetting Kirk Cousins on the list. Jimmy G. So like, yes, these guys are limited quarterbacks. He's worked with them. He had them. They've all had career years with Kyle Shanahan, and that's a testament to Shanahan, no doubt about it. But what's the goal, right? The goal is win a Super Bowl, right? He's been to the Super Bowl. He just hasn't won it. So the next step is to win a Super Bowl. And when has that offense looked its best? That offense that he runs has looked its best in 2 situations. 1, Steve Young, 49ers. 2, John Elway, Denver Broncos. Those are the instances when that offense has looked its best. And who's Steve Young, and John Elway? Steve Young and John Elway are dynamic quarterbacks. They have an elite skill. Both of them. I mean, they're mobile, they're strong, cannon arms, can throw off platform, different angles. I mean, they were doing that back when, before we were like, hey, you can do this. And now, they sort of don't get the credit for doing that, but they were doing that a long, long time ago. And dynamic athletes inside the pocket, outside the pocket. And it's like, people sort of have this all wrong right now, like in terms of like, oh, well, you got to win from the pocket. You do have to win from the pocket. But the guys that are coming out today, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert out in San Diego, like, these are all guys they can do both, right? They can play in the pocket, play out of the pocket. It's not a this or that thing. I mean, the guys that are coming in today are dynamic enough to do both, and they can do both at an elite level. So it's not like we have to pick, okay, can you play out of the pocket, in the pocket? Because you still got to win from in the pocket. But these guys can do both. It's not an or game. It's an and game. So it's like he can throw from in the pocket. He can make all the throws. He's dynamic, and he can do it from out of the pocket. And I think the biggest key is that each of these guys have like a special something, right? They have like a key sort of dynamic attribute that they can fall back on when shit hits the fan, right? So, and I would say also that like this sort of attribute lets some of these guys be successful early when maybe they shouldn't be, or maybe they wouldn't be in prior in prior times. So it's like, for instance, Josh Allen, right? Even as a rookie, Josh Allen wasn't good. Like, he wasn't good. He was inaccurate, right? But the thing was, you saw flashes of his sort of just physical dominance, right? That, how big he was, how fast he was. And when stuff hit the fan, he could run and he could punish the offense. And that would at least give him some ounce of like success. And you could see that sort of flash. Justin Herbert, you saw it last year. I mean, all of it, ability to throw, ability to run. I mean, he had a decent understanding of the game. So you saw a lot of that. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, in his rookie season, he started one game and he was tremendous. And the next year he won league MVP. So Mahomes is probably not the person to compare it to, but like all these other guys, Russell Wilson, his first year, right? Dynamic athlete, beautiful deep ball. They all have, even even Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson isn't a great pocket quarterback yet, but he has a dynamic attribute, which let him be successful even early. So Trey Lance, I think, has some of that. So even if he does have to play, which I don't think he's going to have to play at least until, half or 3/4 of the year. But even if he does have to play, like, he has some dynamic attributes that he can lean on and have some success. So it's like, so yeah, I just didn't believe it. Because it's like, there's no way Shanahan is envisioning his offense and being like, okay, well, I want it to be serviceable. No, anybody that's great at something is like envisioning what they do at the highest level. He's not like the best young coach in the league and envisioning a mediocre offense. So that's why it's just like really hard to wrap your brain around those reports. And geez, thank God that they were wrong, right? Because I think this is like a perfect marriage. Trey Lance is this like, mold of clay, and like it's just this block of clay that like Shanahan gets to sort of mold, and he's seems like a really good kid. Only 20, so maybe getting the city years, gonna help him mentally, physically, in all kinds of ways. So this is going to be like an interesting thing. And for the people who think like there's pressure for him to play right away, no, there isn't, because his sort of comp is like a Patrick Mahomes. And so if Patrick Mahomes was able to sit and they had success that way, you can certainly, for Shanahan, you can certainly sit him and have success and follow that Mahomes sort of model. The other thing was, like, I was thinking, like, what if I'm nuts? Like, what if he actually does take Mac Jones? Then it's like, man, I think at that point I would just think that, like, well, in the NFL, like, we label these coaches as like geniuses. For some reason, we're like, okay, he's a genius. I mean, he's a football coach, dude. Like, he's not, it's probably not genius, right? Even Belichick is like, like we sort of loosely throw around the term genius, right? But in any case, like I was gonna think, like, boy, if he does take Mac Jones, it's the case where like the genius sort of listens to themselves, that they think like, it's like the I would have said he jumped the shark, right? Like he's like just sort of so lost and enraptured in his own world that he gets quirky, and that's what, like, that happens, right? Like Chip Kelly sort of had that sort of happen. He's like got in his own sort of world and then ended up getting in his own way. So if Shanahan did that and was like, it's all about the system and it's not about the player, and I can just do what I say and throw the ball here, and if he was that way and he took Mac Jones and that's what he wanted out of him, that's probably what I would have said. That is, like, any genius, football genius here, sort of has his day, and like it comes to an end of the road sort of moment. So that would have been Kyle Shanahan's jump the shark moment for me. Okay, all right. So we've had some Mac Jones slander, which I don't like. I want to be like, some sports media is so negative. Like, Mac Jones is a good kid, so we want to be like nice to him, and I think he can have success. So let's talk about Mac Jones for a second. Mac Jones gets drafted to the New England Patriots. 15th pick. I think good job by the Patriots. They didn't have to move up. They got him at their spot, and I think he's a good quarterback. Like, I think he's a good quarterback. Yes, I think he's limited. When you compare him to Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, I mean, it's not really fair. So, I think he's limited, yes. But can he have success? Yes. Okay, here's the downside, right? For Mac Jones, here's the downside. The downside is he's getting a downgrade in wide receiver. Like, I can't remember the last time a quarterback left his college team, went to the pros, and got worse weapons, right? And no knock to the Patriots, but like the Alabama receivers, he's worked in the last 2 years with 4 first-round receivers, elite receivers. So like the Patriots don't have that. That's ridiculous. And by the way, first-round running backs and multiple first-round offensive linemen. So he's really going from a situation like that was amazing to worse players. Like who goes? I was trying to think. I was like maybe like Ken Dorsey, because he went from like Andre Johnson and Willis McGahee to like I don't know who he went to in the pros. Like I can't remember who his receivers were and who his weapons were. But like that's the closest thing I could think of, because that just doesn't happen. Like you can't go from your college team, go to the NFL, and like your surrounding cast gets worse. Like how's that? Like I don't know. That's absurd. So that's one sort of bad news for Mac Jones. Okay, for the New England Patriots, like, okay, you got your guy. Now just like be in this relationship with him. Like be present with Mac Jones. You know, put him in a position to be successful. It'd be great to see him be successful here. Like now you can root for him. I think as the number 15 pick, you're like, all right, come on, Mac Jones, let's see what you can do. And it's like for Patriots, like just put him in a position to be successful. Focus on your relationship with Mac Jones, because like the last like, you know, year, and since you lost Brady, since you the Brady breakup, like you've been like just rumored with like people who are on other teams. Like Jimmy G is playing for another team. There's been like so many multiple rumors about that. Jordan Love, it was like, okay, we have this secret document that like, oh, we're gonna maybe a trade for Jordan Love. It's like such sort of nonsense. Like the Boston sports media, Boston fan is like, this is like so typical. It's like infatuating about somebody who's not on your team, who's actually signed with another team. Oh, Aaron Rodgers, right? They thought they were going to get Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is ridiculous. So it's like, you know, they have all these pipe dreams, and it's like, it's sort of creepy, right? New England, like you had a guy for 20 years. At the end, you definitely didn't appreciate him. And like, you're looking at other people. You're like the sort of creepy dude who's like, you know, you dated the belle of the ball for 20 years, you're out of the relationship, and now you're like, you just think like, oh, I'll date this person, I'll be with this person, but like they're on other teams. So it's just like very creepy for New England. They're just like that sort of creepy dude who's like linking themselves to other people who are like taken. So I hope that in this case, like New England, you can just focus on like Mac Jones, be with him, support him, maybe get him some wide receivers, maybe get him, you know, a tight end. Well, they got 2 tight ends this year. Let's see if they can, you know, stay healthy. But get him some wide receivers. You got to help him. He's, you know, you gotta add the berries, the almonds, all the nuts and stuff to make that oatmeal really good, right? So, all the best to Mac Jones. I think, you know, Belichick is obviously a great coach. McDaniel's a good offensive coordinator. They should be able to put him in position to be successful. And, you know, he may not start right away as well. Like, I don't think he's going to start right away. I think Cam, I don't think Cam was a problem for New England last year. I think Cam actually did a really good job, especially before he had COVID. I actually think in terms of leadership, in terms of a lot of things, I think he like really filled a lot of spaces for them, right? Because it's like Brady left, and like there's more than just filling on the field when you're replacing him, right? So I think Cam did a really nice job, and so it'd be nice to see Cam, you know, sort of light it up and bounce back and get to have that year that we want to see him have, so he could, like, you know, maybe get somewhere else, even if New England moves on, and, you know, they're obviously, you know, you got a first-round quarterback, you got to start him eventually. So, you know, that's the take on New England. So we've talked about Mac Jones a lot. We've talked about Trey Lance a bunch. The other 2 quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, nothing against Zach Wilson. I think he can throw the ball. He can really whip it. He's got potential. But, you know, he reminds me a little bit of Sam Darnold, except for a better arm. I mean, he can throw it, you know, better angles. He's more accurate. So he's a better thrower of the ball for sure than Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was a little bit clunky in throwing the ball. Not the prettiest balls. Zach Wilson can really spin it. But I don't think spinning it was the problem for Sam Darnold. I think it's an organizational problem. Anytime a team is incompetent for 20 plus years, it's an ownership problem. It's an ownership issue. So I think, new head coach Robert Saleh, I think he's a good head coach. I think the GM is probably a good GM, but I think there's a fundamental probably ownership problem. Again, it's not. I don't know anything about Woody Johnson, but it's like if a team's not good for like 30 years, like we got a real. It's an ownership problem. That's just the way it is. So Zach Wilson, I'm sorry, that's the worst situation in the league. And I don't know much about Zach Wilson. I know he can throw the ball, but if the Jets pick him, I'm just gonna say probably not great. Although I feel like I like some of their other draft picks, so it's like we'll see. Maybe Robert Saleh is gonna make a change, but I mean, if I was to guess. I think that's obviously the toughest situation and the worst situation, to be honest, because it's a place where the ownership isn't great and there's not a lot of patience in New York in general, and even for the Jets, which somehow I don't know why they wouldn't be patient. It's not like they've not been a great franchise for a very long time, so I don't know why they lack patience, but that's the sort of vibe I get. So I feel bad for Zach Wilson. The Chicago Justin Fields, I think, is an amazing fit. I think it's a really, really good fit. So I think Chicago and Justin Fields is like a perfect fit. I think that's an amazing thing. And actually, I think it's great for the league. Like, I think them getting him is like, I think he could be the best quarterback in like the history of their franchise. And I think that a lot of it is the situation. So like, I really think that Matt Nagy is a good coach. Nagy. I think Matt Nagy is a good coach in terms of like offensive creativity. Look, he got Mitch Trubisky is like some 25-13 or something as a starter, and like he got them to the playoffs like last year. So I think Matt Nagy is a good coach. So you take Mitch Trubisky and take him to the playoffs. And no offense to Mitch Trubisky, but Justin Fields is going to be a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky. There's no question about that in my mind. So, and Justin Fields has some elite sort of attributes: the athleticism, the size. So there's going to be things he's got to work on. But like, I think Matt Nagy can take him, be creative, and have success. And frankly, I think he could have some success this year. So, and Andy Dalton is there. I think it's a great fit. I think Andy Dalton would be a good mentor. He's a good quarterback. Seems like a good dude. Sort of, he's going to serve that sort of Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes role. And I think it's just a good situation. And I think for all these guys, you just gotta. It's about the surroundings and being in a good situation that's going to make this possible. Okay. And lastly, I've been bearing part of the lead here. And lastly, the news that wasn't the draft, but sort of upstaged the entire draft. A few hours before the draft, Aaron Rodgers, there's a report that Aaron Rodgers does not want to play another snap for the Green Bay Packers. And this thing was just like incredible, like so fascinating. And for me, usually I like to like watch things and just see how they sort of play out. And like this one is like, the observation is like, it's so interesting. It's like, so Rodgers says this, right? And I think most people read it as like he hates the Packers. Well, he doesn't hate the Packers though, right? Because if they gave him a multi-year deal, he wants to stay. Like, that's what he wants. He wants a multi-year from the Packers, but the Packers aren't doing it. And it's just like, it's like they've been in this relationship for like a number of years, and Aaron Rodgers wants a commitment. First of all, he's a top 10 quarterback of all time. And, he has every right to demand like, hey, you need to do this for me. You need to do that for me. Okay. So let's just get that out of the way. But like, Aaron Rodgers is like, you guys, like, I'm not, first of all, you drafted a guy last year who's supposed to be my replacement. And that was the year that I took that he took the Packers to the NFC Championship game, right? And then the next year he followed it up. So Aaron Rodgers is like, look, here's the case. Rodgers takes the Packers to the NFC Championship game. They lose to the 49ers. Okay. The next year the Packers draft Jordan Love, his replacement. And then Rodgers follows it up with an MVP season. So like, from Rodgers' standpoint, he's like, listen, you drafted my backup. I just won the MVP. Like, I need some commitment from you. Like, where is this relationship? Like, where is this heading? It's like an ultimatum, right? He wants to be with the Packers. Like, he's asking them for a commitment. Like, and they're unwilling to commit, which is sort of unbelievable. And he's given them this ultimatum, and he did it on the night, where they could do something about it. So it's like he's like basically asking them like, hey, look, it's time. Like, you got to decide, are we getting married? Because like, he's not going to be this young forever. Like, he just had an MVP season. He's playing at a great level right now, but he's getting older and he needs that security. He's like, I got to walk away when I can still go somewhere else and do something. And I think the analogy is like so appropriate. Like, they've been in this relationship and he needs this commitment right now. And he's given the Packers an ultimatum. And like, Packers, look, like, I think the Packers have supported him in ways where like they've gotten him receivers and stuff like that. And he has some weapons. But like Green Bay, like, how stubborn can you be? Like, this is somebody who you've been with for so long, and sometimes you just got to come home with flowers, right? Like, sometimes you got to just like be like, yeah, okay, I'll pick up flowers. And what does Green Bay do instead? They drafted a cornerback. Like, how stubborn and tone deaf are you, Green Bay? Like, you've just gotten this ultimatum. You got to put a ring on it. And Green Bay is like, I think I'm gonna draft a defensive back. Let's go with corner here. Like, when there's a plethora of wide receivers, right? So Green Bay is sort of like, hey, we sort of like the way things are going. We just want to take it day by day. Let's not put a label on this. Green Bay is like, let's not put a label on this guy. Or like, hey, let's continue dating. It's been like 8 years. Let's not worry about marriage. I know you're getting in your 30s, and you look great right now, but maybe in a few years, you may not. So, but Green Bay is like, we sort of like how this is going, and the least you could do, Green Bay, is like come home with some flowers. Like, and they're like, no, I think we think we're coming home with a 6-pack. They came home with a defensive back. And Rodgers is like, dude, I don't drink, and this is ridiculous. and so now you're hearing all kinds of rumors of like, possibly Denver, the Raiders. That's interesting. Also, Denver was the only team where I saw like the top 10 of the draft happen. I was like, is Denver like getting into incompetence zone, especially with quarterback? Is John Elway like just like, I want to be the greatest quarterback in Denver's history, and I'm not even going to make it close? Like, he's just getting guys that are not at all good. So anyways, the Aaron Rodgers thing, like, it's just fascinating. Like, he's given them an ultimatum. He wants to be there. He wants them to put a ring on it, and they're just like, let's just like, we like how this is. Let's just keep on, let's just keep dating. And he's like, it's been like 8 years. You either like me or you don't. You either want me to be here forever or you don't. And good for him. So we're gonna see how this thing plays off. But I thought the analogy was like so appropriate. And Green Bay is just like stubborn dude who's like doesn't understand that the person they're with is like really unhappy, and instead of coming home with flowers, they came home with a defensive back. I mean, I was just like, you foolish people. On the day of the draft, he gave you this ultimatum. There's like a plethora of wide receivers there, and you're like, we think we need corner. We're gonna take corner. Like, how little could you listen to your star quarterback? I mean, it's just unbelievable. So this is gonna be fun. We'll see how it plays out. until next time, peace. All right, please like and subscribe. We're going to do more of these. It's a lot of fun. I'm trying to make more time to do it. Thanks for joining me.